Hey y'all. Today I wanted to get caught up on Sussex.com updates, but specifically the updates that center online safety. We've had a lot of progress made in that space, and we know Archewell Philanthropies, Prince Harry, Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and everyone involved have been working really hard for some of the advancements that we've seen taking place in the last few months. But also, I enjoy reading the updates on Sussex.com because they offer great insight and they also offer just a great perspective about how we are in the current climate, but also how things are in the current climate, but how we can move forward. And so I find their updates, especially regarding the online safety mission, to be extremely insightful for a number of reasons. And today I want to get caught up and give my opinion on some of these things. So let's get started. Hey y'all, thank you so much for clicking on my video, and if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to get caught up on some of the changes and progress made in the online safety space from Archewell Philanthropies. Today we'll be reading from Sussex.com, and of course I'll be giving my opinion and insight, but we have some really big news to share, and I'm so sorry that it has taken me so long to give this update. Online safety has been a major talking point for this channel because it is a big issue to me specifically. Like I said, for most of us who are millennials, and that is the majority of the demographic on this channel, we saw the internet change, but we saw social media birth itself and blow up, not grow up, blow up. It has been a wild ride. And while we can only do so much as users, big tech companies can do a lot more. Legislation can do a lot more. And I appreciate Archewell Philanthropies and everyone they work with for making noise about that and making that known. We have to direct our energy and our focus at the source to make true change. And today I wanted to talk about some of the updates that Sussex.com has been informing its readers about. Before we get into that, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to share so that more people can find us. So first, we have to start with this article. It's titled, "The Internet Isn't Safe for Young People. Big Tech Designed It This Way." And I think it's important to start with this article because we have two more to read from Sussex.com to kind of build this picture, because we do have hope. We have seen countries around the world, including the UK, including, I believe it was Australia. We've seen different places around the world, Colombia, make decisions and take stands to protect the online safety of all of its citizens, but especially young people, especially children, teenagers, people who are more susceptible to the predation that happens on social media from these big tech companies and from people who misuse these social media websites and these operating systems. They know how to get around certain protections and how to access your children and young people who are extremely impressionable and susceptible to their years and years and years of studying and practicing and the tactics they've deployed in real life and online, and now they fine-tune them in a way to manipulate your children to do whatever they want. That should be concerning to everybody. And so I feel like this article starts us off to kind of give a full picture, but I do want to end it with a sign of hope of some of the countries that are taking a stand and making small but extremely impactful changes. And the reason I want to end it there is because, one, I want to end on a high note, but I think it encompasses some of the things that Prince Harry and Meghan have both been saying this entire time since they've taken on online safety as a very important aspect of their platform. They've made it very clear that they're aware that nothing is going to change overnight. So when I see those comments of people being like, do they expect to just end the internet and start it over? I have to ask if you're even competent enough to be using the internet. It's not about changing things overnight or making drastic, unreasonable changes. At this point, as a society, we are wildly dependent on the internet. That's a given. But we have to be able to use these systems, these functions, even these helpful technologies in a way that does not impede on our safety. And I feel like that shouldn't even be a question. So ending on a high note of hope shows that it is possible to make very small but impactful changes that rarely change your day to day. You don't even notice these changes, but they do have a huge impact in protecting you, your loved ones, and everyone around you who deserve to be safe online. And to be fair, even if this weren't online, we should be using the systems we're told we're using, and they should be functioning the way we're told they're functioning, because we should always be able to give informed consent when we participate in anything. Being that this is online, we have access to the rest of the world. I feel like there is nothing of greater importance outside of something directly impacting your physical body that we should be concerned about the safety of it. If I were to do anything reckless that would impede on the safety of the citizens around me in close proximity, like drive recklessly or do something reckless that could harm someone, or put out a very small string from a tree to the other side of the sidewalk and people trip and fall and people die or whatever, I would be arrested for that, as I should be. The fact that we can do anything in close proximity, and it's recognized that we should not impede on the safety and the well-being of the people around us. But when it comes to the people around us, when the people around us were given access to the rest of the world, it's like, it's debatable. We understand manipulation when it's one-on-one, person to person, but we don't understand manipulation when it's in mass. I feel like it's a cop-out because these systems, these programs, they make people too much money, and they want to turn a blind eye because it's like, oh, what's a few bodies when I'm making billions, when I can buy my 85th vacation home that I'm never going to live enough life or live long enough to even experience or enjoy. I still want to be greedy. I want my kids to be greedy. I want people in close proximity to be greedy. I want to continue to widen the wealth gap because I want privilege. And in order to accomplish that, I have to kill a few of you lessers. And that's the attitude and the approach that they take when it's someone who has very high status, when they are wealthy people and they're bringing awareness to this because they do know those people, or those people do have close access to them or in close proximity to them, or it's one of quote unquote their own people who are not seen as expendable or disposable in their eyes. Then they shut up and listen. And that's why it's so important for people like Harry and Meghan, who are public figures and world leaders, wealthy on their own, independently wealthy on their own. They've built their own lives, their own platforms, their own very successful lives. People listen to them because they recognize that, hey, even though they're not speaking from firsthand experience, these things do impact all of us. One of the things that I appreciate about Harry and Meghan is that they consistently remind people that they're just like everyone else as a family. Their kids are going to grow up and use the internet. They want to make sure that they're providing a safe horizon for them to embark on. They don't want to leave their kids susceptible, and they don't think it's right or fair that other people have had to experience some of the worst outcomes possible because no one before them took a stand. I think that's incredibly noble. And so today I want to talk about 3 separate articles that kind of depict what the online safety movement and the work that Archewell Philanthropies has embarked on to include the online safety movement on their platform and some of the work that they've done moving forward, but also some of the other people that they've worked with, organizations they've worked with, all encompassing to move forward in this space. And again, small, manageable changes for these big companies, but huge impacts for us as people. And I don't think that's a trade-off that's even comparable. Even if these changes were huge, business-changing impact or changes that needed to happen or complete overhauls that needed to happen, if it saves human lives, I don't even think it should be a question. So anyway, sorry for the rant, but I'm really passionate about online safety. One, because I've been using the internet I've been using social media, since its inception. I've seen social media change. I have experienced the change of social media. I worry day in, day out. Anytime the kids in my life, y'all know I have 13 nieces and nephews. Anytime they use the internet, I am always concerned not only about how they're using the internet, but I'm always concerned about the people that they're interacting with or who may come across their content on the internet. And as someone who makes content partially for a living on the internet, I know all too well how easy it is for these psychos to misuse the platforms that we're using for the intended use, and they use them to cause harm. I'm an adult who existed before and outside of the internet. I know a life with no social media. I know a life if my computer were to shut down right now and the internet was to go away forever, I could live my life totally fine. Most of the world can't say that. Most of us millennials can. And those who are older than us can. We can say, yeah, we probably need like 3 or 4 days a year where the internet is just off. I mean, I feel like that would do everyone some good, like a reverse purge. But I know what life is like outside of the internet. So I'm able to use the internet and apply limitations to myself because 1, I'm not a crazy person, but then 2, I know what it's like to live outside of it. So it's not my validation. It's not a source of validation for me. I want the rest of the world to be able to experience those limitations. I want the rest of the world to be able to compartmentalize internet use and these websites for the intended use and not be susceptible to other people who may manipulate those uses of those social media sites. So anyway, we're going to start with this article here. The internet isn't safe for young people. Big tech designed it that way. In acknowledgement of Social Media Victims Remembrance Day, youth advocate Isabel Sunderland has penned this impactful piece. Isabel shared the stage with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex at Project Healthy Minds World Mental Health Day Festival. She is a policy lead for the Technology Reform Program at Issue One, a leading cross-partisan political reform group in Washington, D.C. There, she works to advance state and federal policies on child safety, platform design, Section 230, data privacy, and national security, advocating for stronger regulations on big tech. In addition to her work at Issue One, Isabel is actively involved with Design It for Us, a youth-led movement pushing for safer social media to protect kids, teens, and young adults online. She leads state and federal lobbying efforts for the coalition and has advocated on Capitol Hill before state lawmakers and in the White House for kids' online safety. So yeah, she knows her stuff. By Isabel Sunderland, youth advocate and policy expert. The UK government's proposed social media ban for young people and the broader global trend behind it signals that the cultural tide has begun to turn against big tech's unchecked power. For years, the public has been locked in a protracted debate over whether online harms even exist, all while the industry has aggressively scaled without guardrails in sight. Today, that era is ending. Now the question is no longer about if we should regulate these digital spaces, but rather how. That shift alone is progress. I completely agree. And the gaslighting around the potential online harms that exist really frustrates me. They do it on purpose to stonewall, but it is very frustrating and so regressive and unhelpful. However, while a ban is an understandable and often well-intentioned response, it is a false panacea. It dangerously treats the symptom while missing the root cause of online harm. Social media can be a positive force, connecting people, communities, and ideas, empowering young people with access to information, and offering new pathways to civic participation. Cutting off that access lets tech companies off the hook and shifts responsibility away from the executives that design the spaces to be harmful and instead onto the young people navigating them. Bans fail to answer the deeper systemic question: why have these companies been allowed to build such hostile products that a total ban often feels like the only defense? Exactly. The core issue is not youth exposure, it is predatory design. The harms young people face online are not accidental byproducts of an industry innovating for good. They are the result of a series of deliberate design decisions made by tech executives to keep users online for as long as possible. Recommendation algorithms, push notifications, infinite scroll, disappearing content, and other engagement maximizing features are engineered to exploit human psychology. Before toxic content ever reaches a young person, a calculated notification has already lured them back to the screen. Today, tech companies are not merely hosting digital public squares, they are actively monetizing attention spans and building addictive environments designed to siphon attention at the absolute expense of user well-being. This is not a partisan issue, a cultural war, a generational battle, or a fight against innovation, nor is it facing one nation alone. Ensuring the safety of young generations is a fundamental global responsibility, yet tech giants deploy vast war chests into lobbying policymakers around the world to settle for cosmetic reforms that fail to confront the root incentives. No other industry enjoys this blank check, lack of accountability. To dismantle big tech's flawed architecture, legislation must strike at the heart of its business model, and for that, digital natives must be in the room. Including young people at the table when crafting policy is a prerequisite for serious online reform. As digital natives, we intrinsically understand how these companies capture attention, prey on personal vulnerability, and chip away at autonomy because we have grown up inside the systems that lawmakers are now scrambling to regulate. We know, for example, that the answer is not to ban young people from digital spaces, but rather to compel big tech to redesign those spaces so they are no longer intentionally built to exploit anyone, anywhere, at any age. Young leaders are already offering practical blueprints for this future. The youth-led coalition Design It For Us, for example, has launched a youth AI policy framework that demands an overhaul of how we approach tech regulation. Implementing this framework as a non-negotiable baseline would force real accountability and move us past a perfunctory patchwork of reactionary bans that merely delay meaningful change. Serious reform starts by putting the burden where it belongs, on the companies that design these defective products, not on the young people and parents forced to defend themselves against each new addictive design decision, opaque algorithm, and profit-driven update. Companies should be required to assess risks before launching new features, limit manipulative design, protect young users by default, and open their black boxes to meaningful oversight. Transparency cannot be voluntary. Companies should have to disclose how their systems recommend content, amplify harm, target young users, and measure engagement. This also means integrating safe tech in education through clear, corporate free guidance and ensuring that emerging systems are used to enhance rather than replace foundational human skills. Bans limit access, but safety by design addresses the root conditions that made access feel dangerous in the first place. As AI systems already begin to expose young users to new risks, policymakers have a narrow window to correct the mistakes of the social media era before they are hardwired into the next generation of technology. Big tech has shown us that it needs to be regulated and will not act on its own. As these new tech companies emerge, they will point to this lack of rules as a reason they're not responsible for the damage they cause. The lesson from the social media era, reinforced in global conversations at G7, is that voluntary accountability cannot be the foundation for protecting users. Decades of unchecked growth has made one thing clear: this industry will not self-correct. As new companies emerge, they will point to the absence of enforceable rules as reason enough to evade responsibility for the harm they cause. Conversations at G7 and beyond have underscored what advocates have long known. Voluntary commitments are not a foundation for protecting users. They are a delay tactic. If our collective ambition begins and ends with restricting access, we allow big tech to escape the responsibility of a public health crisis that their products produce. The future we are fighting for is not one with less technology or less innovation. It is one where tech companies are firmly held to a higher standard of design and accountability. That feature starts with young people at the table and with laws that make safety the first obligation of design, not the last excuse for a ban. Now, I want to point out, too, one of the comparisons or the analogies that are often used when talking about safety by design is the seatbelt. Car manufacturers are held responsible for including safety measures in their product. We're held responsible for putting them to use or the misuse of them, but they are required to include them. They have regulations. That's the same type of mindset we have to have when we approach big tech companies regarding the baseline of requirements and an enforceable aspect of government. Legislation has to be enforceable. The rules have to be enforceable and legislation has to guarantee that. And so when we're talking about the changes, no one ever said we have to get rid of cars and go back to horses. They said we have to make cars safer for citizens. Yes, they are an asset, but we have to know how to use them and we have to be able to use them safely. That is what we mean. And so when people come with these ridiculous, drastic decisions like, oh, y'all want to get rid of social media, it's like, it might not be the worst idea, but that's not the suggestion here, nor is it the talking point. The talking point is we have to hold these companies responsible for what they give the world access to. They are responsible for making their product or service safe for us to use. You can look at Taylor Farms and see what happens when regulations are lifted. We cannot rely on industries to regulate themselves and put the citizens that they sell to or that they service as their top priority, when their top priority is always going to be their profit. So for our next update, I wanted to include this because I feel like it's just such a no-nonsense approach to this topic. And when I first read this, I was very impressed with just the style of this update. I felt like it was just right at the meat. It gave you the meat and potatoes. It got right to the point, and it had no fluff. And sometimes in these conversations, we have to approach them like that, like common sense wise. Are we comfortable with letting our youth be susceptible to unnecessary online harms that could have detrimental and even fatal impacts? Are we okay with that? And if so, why are you okay with that? Something that I really appreciate that one of my mentors used to say is when someone says like an off-color comment or an off-color joke, or they're attempting to be a contrarian or just kind of neg you, make them explain it. Make them explain it, because oftentimes when you make them work backwards to reach the root of their comment, they realize just how nonsensical, stupid, cruel, or unnecessary it really was, leaving you to be the observer and them to be the one that scrambles, when in fact they were trying to put you in the hot seat. This is how I feel about this. Explain to me why you're okay with kids being the possible collateral damage for your profit. And they can't. What they'll do is the typical manipulative deflection. Oh, let's talk about all the assets. We understand the assets. Are you okay with the risk and the potential and also proven harm that it causes for your outcome and for these assets when there is a way to get all those assets without this harm? They can't explain it. So this article kind of had that energy. So I wanted to include it today. It's very short, but I mean, I could have gone for a whole nother 3 pages of this. So anyway, the title of this update is Can We All Agree Technology Should Not Enable Predators to Target Children? I feel like this shouldn't have to be a question, but in today's world, especially with the Epstein files still just out there and no accountability having been enforced, the answer to this is unfortunately for many people is no. Earlier this year, Minnesota passed a ban on AI nudification apps with a 65-0 vote in the Minnesota State Senate after families and young people advocated for safeguards. Those types of apps shouldn't even be created, and the people who created those should be arrested. That is harassment. That is abuse. These apps allow users to generate nude images of other people, sometimes including children, without their consent. The Minnesota law is an example of leadership fit for the digital age, a bipartisan decision to stop technology from enabling predatory behavior disproportionately targeting women and children. Even in a state with many differences of opinion, it was not controversial. It was unanimously agreed that this technology, if not stopped, would protect predators and hurt innocent people, especially women and girls. The law responds to a growing body of evidence and stories of women, teen girls, and children targeted with AI generated non consensual images. According to studies cited by the UN, 90 to 95% of all online deepfakes are non consensual pornographic images, with around 90% depicting women. The total number of deepfake videos online in 2023 was 550% higher than in 2019. Deepfake pornography makes up 98% of all deepfake videos online, and 99% of the individuals targeted are women. Leaders in other parts of the U.S., like Pennsylvania, North Dakota, and California, have followed Minnesota, proposing interventions and launching investigations to stop AI technology designed to allow the abuse, harassment, stalking, and sexualization of targeted individuals and children. These state-level initiatives come after the successful passing of the Take It Down Act in U.S. Congress, which criminalizes the non-consensual sharing of intimate images and AI-generated deepfakes and requires online platforms to remove them. Archewell Philanthropies applauds leadership taking the tech-fueled sexualization of women and children seriously and doing all they can to keep society safe. Still, more bills are sitting, waiting to be prioritized as the need for protection grows. For example, the Defiance Act would create a civil right of action for survivors of non-consensual deepfakes. It has been passed by the Senate twice, but has yet to make it to vote on the House floor. And everyone who votes against this, I feel like that should be more centered in the reporting of this. I feel like we have to center the people who are working to protect predators. This begs the question, why the delay? The answer may lie in the deepest offense to families and children, the tech industry's commitment to push back on these bills to protect their own bottom line. Big tech has taken shocking steps to limit restrictions on or accountability for these objectively predatory AI product features. Most recently, ahead of the Minnesota law to ban nudification apps going into effect tomorrow, the trillionaire leader of the tech company responsible for X's Grok sued the state of Minnesota to stop the law from going into place. If one wonders why someone would try to stop a ban on AI technology producing deepfakes of people and children in the nude without their consent, they need to look no further than the 3 different groups, including a UK lawmaker, an Arkansas family, and 5 children from Tennessee, all filing new lawsuits against that same Grok feature, alleging it created sexual material of them just this week. The company is mitigating risk to their bottom line instead of aggressively responding to the clear evidence their product features are enabling predators to prey on women and children. Big tech companies are raising billions, claiming AI will bring society forward, yet they retaliate against basic safety measures to keep children safe. Can AI make our world better while it enables the worst in humans? Should our children pay the price while we wait to find out? And for our last update, I wanted to read this one. I felt like it was a great place to end this video on. It's titled, UK Takes a Step Toward Online Safety. A statement from Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. We welcome the UK government's announcement of new measures to better protect children online. The stories shared through the Lost Screen Memorial remind us that behind every debate about technology and regulation are real families whose lives have been forever changed. While measures such as these may help reduce harm, they do not fix the problem at its source. Lasting change requires safer platforms by design, meaningful accountability, and a commitment to putting children's well being ahead of engagement and profit. The burden cannot rest solely on parents and children, it must also be borne by the companies. Until then, every day without meaningful change is another day that children remain exposed to preventable harm. Stronger protections are better than inaction, and today's announcement is a welcome step forward. Thank you so much for watching the SharionSade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video. So that's all I have for y'all today. I hope you enjoyed today's updates and this information. I really appreciate Sussex.com for staying so present and so current, especially regarding this topic, because they offer updates consistently and they put them in such a concise format on their website that it's really easy and simple to go and just get informed, or at least the jumping off point for your own research. So I appreciate that they do their due diligence to keep people informed. With so much misinformation out there and with information scattered the way it is, I really appreciate how concise their website is, but also how intentional they are with information sharing. So that's all I have for y'all. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to share so that more people can find us. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.